So indeed, I'm a marketer. That's why I was asked to provide a point of view, not as a DeFi expert, but as a marketer. I spent most of my career in general management and marketing in companies like Danone, Unilever, Coca-Cola, where I led the global brand for the company. I'm going to come back to that. Samsung and Salesforce for the last 2 years. And I must say over the last not 2 years, but more 2 to 3 months, I've started to go deep into Web3 for marketing reasons, because I believe it has a huge implication on the way people will interact with brands, especially the younger generation. So, having said that, indeed, I'm a marketer, and marketers are storytellers. So I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to start with the first prop for that story, which is very simple, which is, indeed, I did work for this company, but this company was not a soft drink company. This company is probably the biggest bank in the world, or was. You know, interestingly enough, when you went into the headquarters of Coca-Cola, it looked like nothing like the brand. It looked like a bank. It was all white marble, absolutely no signal, no advertising, and it signaled to every visitor, this is a money-making machine. Actually, in 1996, the annual report cover of the company was, quick, what's the color of Coke? Green. That was the answer. Green because of the US dollar. And so the reality is Coca-Cola is a bank. But Coca-Cola is not only a bank. And this is why I'm going to use my second prop, which I bought at the airport. I thought I would bring my presentation, which is this one. This is the other part of Coca-Cola, which is the American dream. And the reality, the positioning of Coca-Cola is all about happiness. It's about life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. You remember that sentence? And the fact that in reality, you know, when we talk about the American banking system, when we talk about DeFi, we've talked a lot about institutional decay this morning. We talked about the world after the hegemony of the US dollar. We talked about the comparison between DeFi and the New York Stock Exchange and the big national banks, you know, JP Morgan, etc. And the reality, the piece that I feel brands like banking and all the financial institutions need to think about is not just how they will evolve their tools, but how they will evolve their brand over the decades to come. And I think we are at a very interesting moment because we've never been there before. If you look at the history, since we've moved away from being apes, we've gone central. I mean, we started to be decentralized in the forest and live alone, and then we started to group in small villages, and then in small towns, and then in bigger towns. And we went centralized, in everything for basically as long as we've been human beings. And and there's been a few ideology. I mean, you mentioned some this morning about decentralization. That happened, in the 1800s. There were a few people who tried decentralization. None of their world. And all the ideology, by the way, that have tried, fascism, communism, even capitalism, have kind of failed us, or failed purely. And so we are at a moment in time in history where we actually don't need just a new banking system or a new currency system. We need a new ideology. And I think that if I were a bank, if I was a financial institution, I would ask myself, at this tipping point, what's the role I can play? Because I'll tell you one thing, the comfort, and I did a startup for a couple of years, and I failed, I learned a ton, but the comfort of not working in a field. A few years ago, you thought the only way to make money was to work in a field. The comfort of not working in a factory. A few years ago, we thought the only way to make money was to work on a production line. The comfort of working in a big tower where you get the paycheck, we get the stock options, you get all the social security and the financial, the health system, is bloody good compared to what we're about to embark on. Decentralization is a lot of opportunities. It's also a lot of risks. And so the reality is the financial complexity and risk that is going to be facing people in this new era we're about to embark, if we're going to succeed, is actually going to be very, very scary. And what is a brand? A brand is fundamentally a beacon to help people deal with their fears and their anxiety, to guide them. And so I think that the role of brands in the financial institutions, and I don't think it's going to be Bitcoin, and I don't think it's going to be Facebook or Meta, but the role of brand is actually going to be to not sell people anymore, but to serve people, to belong to the communities where people are going to operate in that decentralized system, and to be much more people and community-centric and earn the right to be part of the community, to be brought into people's life, than the other way around. I mean, right now, the banking system is still very much complex and imposing its own rule and has not really been at the service of people. Digital banking is nice, but Venmo is nicer. I mean, it's much more simple, etc. And so the reality, I think that where we are going is this need for financial institutions to evolve the way they think about, indeed, and I was told, don't just think about banks, think also about technology companies, and everybody who's going to play in that new DeFi world has a role to play to say, what's the part of the answer that I have to, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness? And the reality, the US dollar would not be the US dollar without America. The US dollar, the Federal Reserve, the New York Stock Exchange, if there was not a Declaration of Independence that's actually written on that tablet here, the date that's written on that tablet is the date of the Declaration of Independence. Why does the Statue of Liberty have 7 spikes? Because it is actually the 7 continents and the 7 oceans. Why? Because this is not just the Statue of Liberty of America. This is, as it was called when it was donated, by the French, to the Americans, it was called Liberty Enlightening the World. And so the reality, the role of the US dollar, the role of the American banking system, of the New York Stock Exchange, is not just that of a US dollar hegemony. It's the role of the brand of America. And all the institutions that have depended on America or the American dream that have actually benefited from that emblem that is America. So my challenge, my disruption here is to say, how do financial brands in the DeFi world think about the role of their brand, the way they're going to serve their customer, the way they're going to serve their communities, earn the right to belong to those communities, and hopefully a new ideology will come back. I don't know what it is, but it's not, if you look at the biggest social network today in the DeFi world, or not DeFi, in the decentralized world, it's Discord. Discord is 150 million users. What does Discord mean? Disagreement between people. I mean, there's been a few trials in the past for basically, disruption, and I don't think that we want an ideology that's all about disagreement between people. So again, just leaving that as a thought, what's the role of the brand? How do you evolve to serve people, not sell at people? And that's what I had to contribute. So again, not much about DeFi, but more about the role of brands. Thank you.